address so we can build out our Land Bank RFI listserv. And we'll get started here in just a moment. We're going to let folks get settled in and see if a couple more people join us today. Thank you. Okay, I think we can get started. We'll just let people introduce themselves in the chat as they join. My name is Shawnee Jones. I serve as one of the procurement coordinators here at KCRHA. And today you are part of our first information session for the Land Bank RFI. This is one of several information sessions, so we just thank you for being in attendance. And we just look forward to getting to know you all a little better. And I will be turning it over to Monica Irons. She is our Director of Planning and Special Projects at KCRHA, and she will be presenting today on the Land Bank RFI.
Thank you very much, Shawnee. And we have a few other people here from KCRHA that I also want to acknowledge. We have Eli and Joe, who are also on our procurement team, who are great support with Shawnee in this new idea called the Land Bank RFI. Next slide. So this is the agenda we're going to go through today. Talk about the timeline for this RFI, and then what the eligibility requirements are for the applicants, what funding we have available, which we'll go into that, but this is a request for information. It is not an RFP. So it really is just getting information. There's no money attached. We'll do an overview of the program and then talk about how you actually submit a letter of information to me, and then we'll have a question and answer session. Next slide. So the timeline, the RFI was released on May 1st, so it's been out, I guess, 21 days. We'll be having information sessions just like this one. I think, Shawnee, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's the third Wednesday of the month, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, at 1 o'clock. So these will be ongoing. And the RFI does not have a deadline. We're going to keep this request for information open. So as you learn about it, please spread it to your colleagues and friends, because we really want this to be kind of an ongoing process where we're building out a database of land potentially available. Also, the Q&A period is ongoing, and you can submit questions obviously today, but also to me at planning@kcrha.org. And that also is on our website, that email address. Next slide, Shawnee. So who is this RFI directed to? Basically, it's directed to all landowners, public landowners, private landowners, nonprofit landowners who are potentially interested in utilizing their land as a place for shelter stabilization for people experiencing homelessness. We have a really big need for more land for shelter. And unfortunately, our public land in King County is not able to meet that need. A group of us sit down every week from City of Seattle and King County and KCRHA to look at potential land sites for micro-modular villages, tiny house villages, sanctioned tent cities, or safe lots, and there just isn't the land available. So this is directed to all landowners. We would consider any piece of land. Next slide, Shani. As I've mentioned, this is to potentially develop future tiny home villages, micro-modular non-congregate shelter villages, sanctioned tent cities, RV parking lots, RV safe lots, and vehicle residency safe lots. King County has about over 8,000 people who are experiencing unsheltered homelessness, meaning we just don't have enough shelter space. And this is the top priority for KCRHA to look to help our unsheltered neighbors find shelter. So that's what this RFI is geared towards. Next slide, Shania. And then next slide. What specifically we're looking for, and again, this is very broad, and at this point, if you have a question about whether you have a piece of land that could potentially be used, I recommend that you email me, because we're really trying to just broaden what could potentially serve as a land for the shelter programs that I listed in the previous slide. We're saying a minimum of 8,000 square feet, which is quite small, but again, this could be for a very small shelter, with just a few tiny houses. This is open to all of King County, including City of Seattle, all the municipalities. We want relatively flat terrain. It's difficult to site tiny house villages or micro-modular villages on a hill. We need to be close to sewer and water hookups, near public transportation so that people living in the community have access to get around. And we're asking that the land be available for at least 1 year. It's difficult to kind of get these things going and then only have them up and running for just a couple of months. Next slide. So the way you submit for this is to just send me what we're calling a letter of interest. And if you look in the Land Bank RFI, there's some questions about who owns the land and about the land specifically. You write a letter of interest and then include in your email your name and title, your organization name, your phone number. If you're able to link any of the GIS maps that King County has or property records, that's helpful. And then, as I mentioned, a PDF of your letter of interest. And this is in section 6 in the RFI. Next slide, Shani. And again, this is pretty self-evident, but responses should be in PDF form. If you want to make some key points, please put them in bold. I don't want to receive anything by letter or fax, just electronic submissions. And then whoever is kind of the authorized representative should have their name on the email and their email address so that we are sure that we're dealing with people who have the authority to actually put this information in. The review process will just be me and other members of the planning team looking at these and then probably getting back to you asking for more information, trying to figure out if this could potentially be a fit for a project that we have funding for or a project that is somewhere now but needs to move. And any answer to submitted questions will be posted on our website so that everybody has access to the questions and the answers. Next slide. I just want to make this super clear that site identification is just the first step in establishing a shelter, a land-based shelter like a tiny house village, micro-modular village, or a sanctioned tent city. RFI is just to facilitate this very first step. We would still need to do all the regular steps for setting up a shelter. It would include a land lease agreement, a community engagement plan that was activated, including a community engagement meeting that was well publicized a couple of weeks before so that any neighbors who had input a good neighbor agreement between the shelter providers and the neighborhood about taking care of any complaints promptly. And part of a good neighbor agreement is also setting up a community, I think it's called a Community Action Committee, a CAC, which allows community members to give continual input into the shelter operators to make sure that the shelter is being operated safely and carefully. We would also need to engage with any local public officials. If it was City of Seattle, obviously the mayor's office and the city council, outside City of Seattle, whatever local officials there were, and then go through a regular permitting process for what's considered by the permitting department in Seattle an encampment. So this would include meeting ADA and fire rules, the utility hookups, all sorts of things. They need to have 2 entrances so that if there's ever a fire, the fire trucks can get in another entrance. And then finally, obviously, financing, contracting, and monitoring the new program. So finding the money for the program. So I really want to just use this slide as an opportunity to spread the word that because you are submitting a potential site, that doesn't mean that a tent city is going to show up there the next day. We would absolutely go through the entire process necessary to set up a tent city or a micro-modular village or a tiny house village. Next slide, Shani. This is just telling you how to find this RFI, and I'm actually hoping to get it a little more front and center, but it's basically in our drop-down menu under resources, you click on funding opportunities, which to me, truthfully, is a little confusing because this is not a funding opportunity. It's actually a request for information. But for now, this is where this RFI lives. And then this will be where we're also posting the questions and the answers that I'll put up within 10 days of receiving the question. Also, there'll be these information sessions will be available on the website at that spot. Next slide, Shani. And as I mentioned earlier, any questions, go to planning@kcrha.org, which goes directly to me, and I will get to them promptly. But this is really just kind of a call to everyone to be part of our solution in solving homelessness in King County. We do have funding that comes in for potential tiny house villages and micro-modular villages. We do get some funding opportunities that come up either from King County or City of Seattle or the federal government or the state. And so as those opportunities come up, we want to have land available. And I guess, Shani, at this point, do I open it up to any questions, or if people have any questions, please drop them in the chat.
Yeah, just come off mute, and this is a good time for us.
Yeah,
just
this
to
is a
converse.
small group, so please, yeah, just come off mute and ask away. You guys, you're making this way too easy on me. Come on, I feel like somebody, Layla, ask a question.
I actually don't have a question. It was very informative, but what I was supposed to have my other colleague here from our human services be on the call with us. We were trying to gather the information for this RFI. It's something that we are highly interested in and building and helping our community. So we're going to take this information to our director and our planning team, research some land in our Federal Way area and see if this is something that we could possibly participate with.
I love that. That's exactly what this is geared towards. We've also had somebody from HSD in Bellevue reach out with similar thoughts that this is something that we should all be coordinating on. It's just a great opportunity for all of us to kind of come together. And, you know, we have, to be very honest, we have many unsanctioned tent cities in Seattle and in King County, and those don't work for the neighbors, and they honestly aren't the best approach for the people living in those unsanctioned tent cities. And this is a way to offer individuals experiencing homelessness some dignity, some safety, garbage services, hygiene services, and also to help our communities so that we are able to have safe places for people living unsheltered to get shelter. So
Totally
thank you.
agree.
Yeah, thank you for participating. And please reach out to me by email. Like, this is our first, we're just starting to kind of spread the word on this.
Yeah.
So this is our first kind of saying out loud that this is a real issue. And I think what we hear a lot, all of us who are kind of in the field working, that we're not doing enough to solve unsheltered homelessness, and we're not being proactive. And so this was really me just putting that around my brain. It's like, okay, well, let's actually throw that out to our whole community and say, let's let everybody be part of this system. Let's let the private landowners who potentially have land be part of the system as well. There's quite a few developers who I've been talking to very informally, and they'll buy land and then want to hold it for a couple of years while they are before they build on it for various reasons, financing reasons. And so this could be a perfect win-win, where if we do have a sanctioned tiny house village or micromodular village, there's some fencing, there's some 24/7 security system, and it actually can help prevent vandalism potentially of their site. And so it can end up being a win-win for both parties. And that's really the way we want to present this, as a way to kind of offer a win-win for both parties, and providing spaces where the community as a whole decides that this is a place that would be a safe place both for the community and for the people living in the tent city or the tiny house villages to live. So
Actually, I just thought of a question while you were speaking.
sure.
It's very random, very coincidental. I was doing some other research before this call and came across this program called the Block Project. I don't have very much information on, but as I was just kind of navigating their website, it looks like they were not specifically a tiny home, but just adding like some sort of shelter space in the backyards of homeowners that were interested or wanted to volunteer their property. Is that when you say private and public for this particular project, does that sound similar to that? Are you aware of that project? Have you heard
Yeah,
of that before?
I have heard of that. So that would be, if an individual had a house in Seattle, for example, maybe they have a place where they could have one or two THVs in their backyard. And this is looking at bigger pieces of land so that we could have slightly, we're just trying to kind of maximize. But I think that also is a great program. And somebody did mention that to me. I'm going to look into that after this call, because I think I think it's a really good idea. Yeah. I'm trying to remember who's organizing that. And I don't know offhand. So I'll look into that. But
Okay.
I think we're also looking not just like private landowners, like an individual, but also perhaps people in our business
Okay.
community.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't want to call out any business per se, and then, but we have some large landowners who have land that they're not utilizing. Potentially, they're planning to develop it at a later date, and so that this could offer them a way to have that land secure, honestly, because there'd be people living there, and there'd be rules, and there would be security, and so.
Totally agree.
What did
Yeah.
somebody ask? Do we need to partner with service providers? No, this is not, we're not putting together a tiny house village with this project. We're just doing a general call out for land. And then as we start to build a land bank, if a provider got funding for a micro modular village or a tiny house village or a tent city or a RV safe lot, we could then say, we have these various lots available. Let's sort through them and see if any could potentially meet your needs. And then obviously set up meetings with the landowner and then start down that process that I talked about in the previous slide with community engagement, engaging with the elected officials, the permitting process, all of that. But no, you do not need to partner with a service provider to be part of this RFI.
Yeah.
No, no, no. This is really just looking for land. Step one of how to get a tiny house village going. Yeah, hopefully that answered your question. Oh, cool. Thanks for putting that in the chat, Layla. I see typing happening, so we'll give it another minute. Any other questions?
Again, I don't, but I do appreciate all your time.
Oh, of
Again, I'm
course,
gonna take
yeah.
this to my team and see what we can kind of conjure up amongst ourselves out this way.
Yeah, and what I recommend is just sending this out, just please send the RFI out to any
Tony.
to anybody that you have on your email list so that we can
Yeah.
Okay, I will do that.
I'm waiting for the guest to complete typing. So, oh, they stopped.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go
Oh,
ahead.
great. Okay. Sorry, it's a lot easier if I just talk to you guys.
Yeah,
I
great.
think this is a great idea because I'm relatively new into this. I have actually I leased out one of my properties to Lehigh for a tiny village. Just recently, they're almost done with it. The problem I found was that a lot of times these RFPs come out and it's more geared towards the service providers, not for landowners. So I'm usually way too late, or I have no access to anybody to talk to anybody. And I think that's why I'm interested in this this RFI. It sounds like that you're trying to connect these two groups that are kind of apart. So that's one thing that I noticed, that it's way too late for me to even apply, or I can't qualify because I'm not a service provider. So
Well, no. This is just looking for land. So this is actually
I
geared.
understand.
Yeah. Oh, you mean in tradition, our more typical RFPs where we're actually looking for a non-congregate shelter RFP? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, or anything like that, because it's you have your point system, and I don't qualify for all of them except just the land.
Right.
Do you see? Yeah. So I think this is a good starting point to have this, to have a land bank.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, no, exactly. Because I think that is the problem. A lot of our providers are very separate from our landowners. And so this is trying to kind of bridge that gap. Absolutely. And then working, kind of speaking both teams' language so that we're able to find a place to meet in the middle where both the landowner and the service provider and the clients are all able to get their needs met. And I think there are wins certainly for the landowners in that they could make some income, although probably not market rate per se, but that may work for an individual or an individual landowner in the short term because they'll get some security for their site and, all sorts of things. So, well, thanks for attending. Yeah, and please, if you have friends who own land, please spread the RFI around and have anybody reach out to me with questions who has questions.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, Shawnee, is there other things I should do before we complete, or?
No, if that was if there are no more questions, we just thank you all for your time and your questions and attending today, and we look forward to possibly partnering with you in the future.
Yeah, please spread the word on this. Thank you everyone for attending, and thank you team at KCRHA for doing the technical support.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.